The NBA just absolutely screwed the Milwaukee Bucks as they fall to the Charlotte Hornets and they lose a game that the refs stole from them. Could they have played better? Absolutely. Is it the direct reason they lost? What I do know is this is now back-to-back games where the refs have completely screwed over the Bucks. So we're going to break all that down in this episode. Before we get into it, if you're a part of the 80% who aren't subscribed to the channel, this is the place to be for daily Bucks content. We're producing videos every day, videos after every single game. So if you're enjoying the daily content, make sure to hit that subscribe button. Guys, this was brutal. There's a lot to go over in this game. There were some positives as well, and I'm going to dive into those, but I'm going to immediately just get into the disaster class that the refereeing was in the final really 5 minutes of that game, but it all accumulated with LaMelo Ball tripping over his own feet, tripping on the hardwood. Giannis getting called for a foul when there was no contact whatsoever. The Hornets announcers admitting it, and because they were in bonus, the Charlotte Hornets got 2 free throws, won the game. The Giannis, of course, missed his step back, his pull-up midi. It's at the point now where, you think about this game, and we're going to dive into the depths of it. It was, again, no Damian Lillard and no Ryan Rollins. The game obviously was an interesting one, and it started off decent. We saw some great movement. We saw some great defense. I mean, Giannis put up a 22-point triple-double. He was phenomenal. And, again, people were saying, the starting lineup, do they really need a point guard? Can Giannis take over that point guard position and be that guy? I think at this point, obviously, he's not going to be playing point guard every single night, but he is a capable facilitator. Obviously, you have Ajax, you have DeLon Wright manning the starting point guard spot, and DeLon Wright did some things, but the refereeing tonight, we think about last game, and you think about multiple times now where, the refereeing was rough. This was called a foul on Giannis. You can't make this up, and if you actually play the clip, of course, it was the one where Giannis Antetokounmpo slips on the hardwood, but this is now back-to-back nights. You think about the foul that was called on Giannis on the lob against the Detroit Pistons that ultimately allowed them to get 2 shots. Now, they missed both, so it still went to overtime. But the one here tonight was arguably worse. And when you're thinking about not just that play, but the entirety of the game, literally for the past, they had a call overturned where Ajax was completely vertical. They called it, they overturned it. Terrible call in the first place. And then you have literally 2 possessions after that, you have a charge call. And, Doc Rivers challenges it again, and they don't overturn it this time. And, I mean, maybe his right foot was slipping a little bit on the LaMelo Ball. Maybe. But it looked like a pretty clear-cut charge to me. They did not overturn this one. The call was confirmed. So, clearly they saw something, out in, where they do their reviews that said, hey, this wasn't it wasn't clear-cut enough. So then that happens. You're thinking, hey, I mean, the Bucks were up by 7. They went on, and, the Charlotte Hornets went on a 7-0 run. They're up 5, I believe. And I think it was 107, 102, whatever the exact score was. This is happening. And the whole time, despite being up 107, 102, you're battling. The referees come into play. And then they just completely, I don't know what the ref necessarily saw. Like, obviously, LaMelo Ball is a great player, superstar, whatever. He's driving, and there's no contact. He slips on his own feet, and the ref decides to call a very, very late foul. Now, maybe he didn't realize for some reason that it was bonus, that it would decide the game. He didn't call the foul until LaMelo Ball was on the ground. He didn't call it on the way down. He waited till he was fully on the ground for at least 2 seconds and said, hey, let's go ahead and call the foul. Completely screwed over the Bucks, and they would have won this game if they didn't make that call. I'm very confident because Giannis Antetokounmpo had him locked up. Now, aside from the whole, all of that, you had Giannis have a phenomenal game. He was playmaking very well. He was hitting his pull-up mid-ranges, which is something that if he can continue to do that is going to be very important going forward. And we saw Andre Jackson Jr. start to feel a little more comfortable and actually get some more trust from the head coach, Doc Rivers. I mean, he was the primary guard, who was guarding LaMelo Ball, and they kept running screen action to get Pat Connaughton, who's also a fine defender in his own right, but get Pat Connaughton on LaMelo Ball so that way they can have a bit more of a mismatch because Andre Jackson Jr. is an absolutely tenacious defender. He had a pretty rough turnover when it was 107, 107. Doc Rivers was not happy, but despite all of these little things, I loved the way Ajax played, and got to give credit to a couple of bench guys as well. I mean, Pat Connaughton, he had 5 points heading into the last 2 minutes of the game. And then he hit a 3, and then he hit a layup to put them up by 2. And then, of course, Gary Trent Jr., his minutes are slowly getting diminished. But, I mean, he's starting to find it a little bit. And if Gary Trent can start, if GTJ can continue to kind of get things going and shoot the ball fairly well. I mean, 2 for 6 isn't great. He's shooting at a 33% clip. But a 33.3% clip's not that bad after all, especially considering he was going at, like a 15% clip for most of the season. And it was the Bobby Portis game off the bench, and I've been very critical of Bobby Portis. He had a good game. I mean, there was a stretch there in the third where he was the sole reason the Bucks were still in the game. They were running continuous post-ups. He was hitting his layups. He was hitting his threes. He was hitting his mid-ranges. And he was getting great rebounds. Is his defense great? No, absolutely not. It's not going to ever be good. But, I mean, 24 minutes, putting up 24 points, he was one of the reasons they stayed in the game tonight. And as critical as I've been of him, he has continued to be, a solid scorer. It's just I'm not sure it's exactly what they need. But in a game like tonight where Brook Lopez and, two of the starters only combined for 12 points, DeLon Wright, he had a great block on LaMelo Ball to borderline save the game. And it was an insane block off for turnover. But it didn't really matter because the Bucks ultimately got screwed over by the referees, which is very disappointing. But I mean, going forward, Taurean Prince also, I got to give credit to him. He's been very good as of late. I've been critical of him as well on the channel. He's been phenomenal. Great 3-and-D presence today. He was very solid, actually passing the ball. He put up 23 points. He was hitting his threes. He's starting to actually find a role now. And if his role is 13, 14 points a game, that's perfectly fine. You can give him 14 points a game. However, you need other guys to step up. Ajax, I still like the way he played, especially for a young guard. I mean, he has some work to do. Taking care of the ball, doing a bit better on that front, but he was still fine. DeLon Wright, not a great game from him. He did some things really well. He had some great defensive plays, some good facilitating plays, but he wasn't quite where we needed him to be. And then Brook Lopez had a bit of a rough game, had a huge block, though, at the end of the game. So, and he was also taken out of the lineup for a little bit when they were running small ball. So it's a lot of interesting things. I mean, ultimately, at the end of the day, it was a brutal loss. It shouldn't have happened. The refs screwed over the Milwaukee Bucks, but they probably shouldn't have been in that position. That being said, for a team that's very hurt right now, you need to get Damian Lillard back because the other guys are starting to play a little bit now. Bobby Portis, Ajax, Gary Trent's finding it. Taurean Prince is finding it. You slot Chris Middleton and Dame into this lineup, I think things are really going to start to pick up, and that's why a win like tonight to put them towards going 5-8 instead of 4-9 is a huge difference right now for these standings, especially the way that the East has been going. It would have been, would have went a long way. But, I mean, ultimately, LaMelo Ball turned up in the fourth quarter. He had 11 free throws. They went 18 for 31 from the free throw line. And you can see this here. They got 18 for 21, sorry. The Bucks had 10 less free throws than the Hornets. And Giannis got one free throw on the night. One free throw. He wasn't driving as much as he usually does. But, I mean, the refs were out to get him, and whether that's going to continue to happen or not is yet to be seen. I'm curious to see what the last 2-minute report will be on this because I can guarantee you that I guess they thought that Giannis tripped up LaMelo, but was not a foul. It wasn't close to a foul, and at the end of the day, the Milwaukee Bucks got screwed out of this win, but they need to play better regardless. If they continue to play lackluster basketball, they're not going to get anywhere. But they need to get healthy. We saw some good things out of Ajax. Pat Connaughton had a huge couple buckets down the stretch there. And Gary Trent Jr. is slowly starting to find it. He's still not quite there yet. But things are starting to slowly line up. I'm a little bit optimistic, especially after this game. I mean, Taurean Prince outscored Giannis. Would have been nice to see Giannis be a bit more aggressive, but he still took 22 shots. Taurean's had a phenomenal game. So let me know down below what your thoughts are on this. On to the next game, and hopefully the refs can lock it in. And if you're enjoying the Daily Bucks content, leave a comment down below and make sure to hit that subscribe button because we're producing daily videos and we're going live with every post game. So thank you guys for your support. See you guys later.